The following video contains content that is protected under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. It also contains content protected under the Fair Use Act. The goal of this channel is to speak out against the unnecessary loss of life. This channel has and always will stand for denouncing gratuitous violence.
You say you love America, and God bless the troops. But 5 deferments later, no service for you. Concerned about crime, drugs, and other jargon, how many drug traffickers have you pardoned? Cuts to health care, expose all the lies, rich soldiers' lives for oil, with greed in your eyes.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solis, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome once again to my channel, Stop Effing Killing. I'm your host, the MOD, also known as the Method of Delivery. Please like, share, and subscribe if you find anything that resonates with you. So, today we're going to talk about the government doesn't really care. And in particular, the President of the United States. They do not really care. So, as many of you know, recently, the President of the United States authorized the invasion and the president and his wife of the country Venezuela. Now, he said in his after action press conference that this man Maduro was a drug trafficker and he, harmed the United States and he had to be taken out of play, pretty much. Now, my question that I ask you as a U.S. citizen is, if the President of the United States was so concerned about drug traffickers, why did he pardon Juan Orlando Hernandez, Robert Ulbricht, and Alice Johnson? Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Juan Orlando Hernandez, who on November of 2025 was given a full pardon by Donald Trump. He was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison for drug trafficking. And during his sentencing and his trial, it was, found out that he trafficked over 400 tons of cocaine. That's 800,000 pounds. And the president pardoned him. But he's concerned about drugs. Next we have Ross Ulbricht, creator of something called the Silk Road, which is basically an online drug marketplace. He was pardoned in January of 2025, convicted of distributing narcotics, engaging in continuing criminal enterprise, conspiracy to commit computer hacking. And it is stated that he made tens of millions of dollars through this dark web on-site that he created, selling and facilitating the sale of drugs. And then we have Alice Johnson, convicted in 1996 of 8 federal criminal counts, money laundering, structuring. She was connected to Colombian-based drug dealers based in Texas who had a direct line to the drug cartel. Now, she admitted that she was an intermediary in drug trafficking. And the media will have you, think that, oh, well, she was convicted of a non-violent drug offense. When is drug trafficking non-violent? And she is stated to have, helped bring in between 2,000 to 3,000 kilos of cocaine during her time in the drug trade business. That's not by accident. And can you imagine in that 2,000 to 3,000 kilos of cocaine, how many people either self-deleted or were unalived because they OD'd on the drugs, or because they couldn't pay their drug debts, or gangs warring over drug territory? None of this is by accident. And these are just a few of the people that the president pardoned. So spare me the, we're concerned about, drugs harming this country, when you're pardoning people who are clearly were and maybe still are in many instances a clear and present danger to this country. If you're so concerned about, the health of this country, then why aren't you doing anything about health care?
Double whammy. KFF, a health policy research group, says the loss of some tax credits will drive up out-of-pocket payments by over 75%. The Congressional Budget Office projects at least 4 million people will lose their coverage. On some level, is this sort of the equivalent of an Affordable Care Act repeal light?
Yes, absolutely. By one estimate, enrollment will be cut in half.
And what does that leave you thinking?
People, unfortunately, are not aware of what's coming down the pike. They're going to enroll in coverage and open enrollment this year as they would any fall, but they may not know until late in the year what their actual consequence will be for their premiums and their out-of-pocket costs.
It sounds like a major fear you have is people don't realize what's about to hit them.
Absolutely.
So, John LeBouk, we're going to have the basic journalistic questions. First of all, who is going to be hit by these increases?
It's going to be people who are making too much money to be eligible for Medicaid, but not enough money to be able to comfortably afford insurance.
There are a lot of people, millions of Americans, who are essentially going to lose their health coverage because their premiums through the ACA, are going to double, triple, and even quadruple, which means that they won't be able to afford the health care. Wrapped up in healthcare is not just the actual drugs themselves and the treatment that people use, but you have, things like mental health treatment. You have drug and alcohol, treatments and, centers. All of this stuff plays into the health of a person, the mental, spiritual, and physical health. But yet, the president has done nothing to facilitate health care for everybody so that maybe people don't get addicted to drugs. Maybe they don't, overdose on drugs due to, them being driven into poverty because they can't afford health care. Now, going back to this decision,
Abduction.
I'm not here to tell you that Maduro was a good person and that, he did right by the Venezuelan people. I'm not here to debate that or to say anything along those lines. But what I am saying is, these politicians, when they have a military general get up and say that we were attacked and in self-defense we shot back with overwhelming firepower.
On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today,
it's unfathomable how someone can say that they shot back in self-defense when they invaded a sovereign country. So you mean to tell me, if I'm sitting at home watching TV in my house, me and my wife, and someone kicks in my door to kidnap her and save my kids, and I shoot at you, but you shoot back and take my life, you get to claim it was self-defense? This is absolutely ridiculous. And this is, one of the reasons why we have to push back against nonsense. And I'm making this video because anybody, and I mean anybody, that hears the things that I'm saying, just understand that the government does not care about your health, my health, and our lives. The only thing they care about is making money. And the president said as much.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
Saying that, the American oil companies are going to come in and take over, Venezuelan oil fields. Because in reality, that's what this is really about. His decision to launch this attack cost the lives of Venezuelans. Whether it was soldiers, whether it was innocent people who got caught up in the crossfire. And not only that, he put the lives of soldiers and law enforcement in harm's way for oil. That's what he did. He doesn't care about Maduro selling drugs or Maduro trafficking drugs, because if he did, he wouldn't have pardoned the people that I mentioned earlier and others that I haven't mentioned. In reality, it's up to us. We have to push back. We have to vote people like this out of office, and we have to keep them out of office. If you want to have a better country, if you want to have a better situation, the first thing you have to do is, number one, look inside of you and ask yourself, what kind of country or what kind of world do I want to leave for my kids and my grandkids? They're literally threatening to take Greenland, if by force if need be. And see, these type of decisions, the same man who is making these decisions is the same one who ran from service 5 consecutive times when called to action. He's the same person who called members of the military suckers and losers. And yet he sends them to invade a country, not because we're engaged in an act of war, or there's some type of legitimate self-defense, our country is being invaded or a terrorist attack has occurred or something like that. He sent those men and those women over there and put them in harm's way and had them to take the lives of other people, also that American oil companies can pump oil out of the ground. And I'm asking you, is this what we've really been reduced to? Just invading countries and kidnapping people and unaliving soldiers and civilians of their country just so we could take their oil. Because in the end, in reality, there is no you and there is no me. There is only we, and we must, with everything we have, stop the effing killing, especially when it comes to our governments. Thank you, and have a safe day.